It wasn't always as public. I think perhaps things were slightly more behind the scenes when under the late Queen's reign, because she, things had been done in a certain way for a very long time. But the King is himself a very warm person, and
he's getting quite a reputation as a kind of cuddling king.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
When he cuddled the rugby team, I love that moment. It's so good.
I know, and that sort of burst the dam, didn't it? Because now everyone wants a hug.
Absolutely. If I saw him, I'd be like,
bring it in, bring it in, Madge.
If the question is, does it work? I suppose you need to go back to what were they trying to achieve with it. And I think for Meghan, what she wanted to achieve is, as she said on a podcast a couple of days ago, authenticity, showing that she has this private life full of joy and normal moments. So I would imagine that they're pleased with how it's gone down. They've had a lot of people saying, oh gosh, they're so normal, how fun. It's a very different insight into their lives. I don't think that the general public ever really doubted that they have fun in private.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of a Right Royal podcast with me, Andrea.
And me, Emmy.
We're soaking up the sunshine.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, I'm soaking up the sunshine while doing a bit of royal spotting at Royal Ascot.
Yes, the royals were out in full force this week at one of their favourite events of the year over in Windsor. But we had a very noticeable and last-minute absence from the Princess of Wales.
Yes, but she was on great form at both Garter Day and Troop in the Colour.
And of course, we have to talk about Meghan's twerking video. Yes, that one. It's already hit 50 million views.
Ooh. Now, before we get into it, we have a very special announcement to share with you all.
We are doing our very first live podcast recording.
Yay! We're excited, nervous, and totally ready. And we want you, our loyal listeners, to join us.
The live show takes place next week on the 26th of June in London as part of London's Climate Week.
We'll be at Ladbroke Hall and tickets are free.
But limited. And we've got some incredible guests lined up. Just click the link in the description for all the details and to sign up. Please come.
Please come. But now, who better to help us break down all the royal news than our royal editor, Emily Nash, fresh from the champagne-soaked lawns of Ascot, and joining her, already a favourite on this show, the Telegraph's royal editor, Hannah Furness.
Welcome! Emily, welcome. We're going to be joined by Hannah very, very shortly. But first of all, I wanted the three of us to have a quick catch-up because, ladies...
It's exciting. It's really exciting.
Live, our first ever live podcast
what
episode.
What could possibly go wrong?
We're going on tour next week. I can feel it. I can feel it.
I can feel our producer's sweat from here as he thinks what it's going to be like not editing us, the unedited versions.
I'm here
dangerous.
for it. It's going to be great. It's going to be really good fun. And I really hope that we'll get a lot of our regular listeners along. I was lucky enough to bump into one of our listeners yesterday at Royal Ascot, which was a lovely surprise. So a shout out to Yasmin, originally from Canada, but now living in the Midlands. And it was great to see her.
Hello, Yasmin.
We were sort of talking about this earlier, that we've been doing this for 3 years now. We've had over 5 million downloads, which I still can't believe. It's so incredible. If just anyone watching or listening is interested in joining us in person in London, I'd absolutely love to meet a few people that have been listening.
I might bring some magazines to spread.
To sign. to sign them.
It'll be a great day, for sure.
It'll be a great day, and we've got amazing guests.
We have got fantastic guests. So, keep an eye on the website for the event. And
we're keeping them a secret for now, aren't we?
We are.
But they will be revealed very soon.
So,
looking forward to it. Should we get on with
Let's
today's
do it. Let's bring
episode?
Hannah in.
Hannah Furness, welcome back to a Right Royal podcast. We're really excited to have you here. Hannah, your Royal Appointment newsletter, which is over on Substack now. Give it a read. It's very good.
I'm subscribed. I'm a fan.
Yeah, we're all fans. We're all fans of Hannah. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
You two look very nice and fresh and happy.
Did you discuss your outfits?
We didn't actually.
After your joint trip to Ascot.
Yeah, we're very fresh from Ascot.
Fresh, yes.
Is fresh the word, or is it a...
If that's what you're calling it, I'll take it.
It was a lovely sunny day. Lots of royals.
Very warm. Very
One
warm.
missing.
Yes. So I think we should get straight into that because there was a bit of a moment of consternation, wasn't there, in the media box yesterday when we got the news that the Princess of Wales wasn't going to be attending as we'd expected. Tell us what unfolded.
Well, the great excitement yesterday, wasn't it? They released these carriage lists at midday. So everybody who was at Ascot in the royal enclosure and elsewhere saw a list of who was going to be in the royal procession. You had the King, the Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales. And obviously, even though she's been back for a little while, the Princess of Wales is a huge name to have an event like
always
Ascot.
is, yeah.
Everyone was very excited that she was there. And then not long before they were due out on the royal procession, we heard that actually she wasn't coming, that she was disappointed not to be there. But this is all part of her gradual return to work, and it just wasn't going to work that day.
But what happened? Because they released the list. Did Ascot not know until the list? Because the palace wouldn't do that. They wouldn't wait for the list to be released at 12 to then say, no, actually, she's not coming, and release a new one.
Yeah, to address the elephant in the room, like, should we be worried? Or, like, yeah, what's the deal?
I don't think we
I
should
don't
be
think so.
overly worried. What I do think is that this is actually quite a good moment for people like us and royal fans to stop and remember actually where she is, because this time last year she wasn't able to do any of this. She was having chemotherapy, and even before the chemotherapy and the cancer diagnosis, she was already really unwell with that abdominal surgery. So the fact that we now expect her to be at these events, and that some people seem a little bit put out that she hasn't made it at the last minute, it is a bit of a moment, I think, to stop and remember how far she's come, how hard she's worked to get back in the public eye.
Yeah.
And she's become a very reliable presence out and about on royal engagements and at these big royal events. The last week she's done trooping, she did Garter, we expect her to be at Ascot, but
It's
it
a
wasn't
lot.
the right
It's
thing
a lot.
to do.
Yeah. It was a lot.
And everybody we speak to at the palace really emphasises, don't they, Em, that this is about balance, it's about a sensible, safe, careful return to work, because her health and the King's health, while they have overlapped slightly with the same diagnosis of cancer, their cancer journey, as the Princess calls it, has been really different.
Yeah.
And their priorities have had to be really different in terms of coming back to work and being in the public eye. So she has a long working life ahead of her in the royal family.
Absolutely.
And everybody around her, especially Prince William, are very, very mindful of having to pace herself to make sure she's fit and well to do it.
The big difference is she does have 3 young kids. I mean, and as parents, nearly. We know already
Dead
how
comfy in here right
tiring, how tiring that is. So that already takes so much energy. And obviously the King, you know, his kids are grown up, but you know, she is in a place where she really does need to take it.
And also, I think, you know, they view everything in such a long-term way, don't they? They're not thinking about just the next engagement. As you say, you know, she's got decades of public service ahead of her.
It's not just what's the front page for tomorrow's photo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, what is the photo for tomorrow's front pages? It's how is this going to look in the next 20, 30 years? And that's why your point about the kids is so good, is because it's not just that she's probably a bit tireder than people without children, having to do all of that behind the scenes, but it's keeping their lives stable and calm and navigating all of this stuff in a really public arena.
Yeah.
Even though she was absent, Prince William was in great company. So most of his friends turned out.
Yes, he
And
had-
even the in-laws.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a nice moment between him and Carol Middleton.
Yeah.
Some lovely moments between her and the King. They looked like they were having a really good giggle together up in the royal box. And she attended with James Middleton's wife, Elise. So it was quite a family affair, you know. There was a good turnout, as you say, of their friends. And William looked like he was enjoying himself. We saw him presenting the Prince of Wales stakes. And I think he's very good in these situations. He knows he's being watched. You know, it must have been uncomfortable. Again, going back to the Princess of Wales, I can't imagine being in that heat yesterday and being under scrutiny for up to 5-6 hours. You know, I think we were relieved to be able to go and sit down in the shade, take our shoes off.
Yeah, it was a really hot day, and it is a long carriage ride. They go all the way from Windsor Castle, don't they, down this royal procession into Ascot, and then, they're on show for the entire day.
It's such a good point to remember that it's not just 5 minutes, wave at the crowd and go about your day. She would have been there all day, which is a lot for anyone, let alone...
And the number of cameras that are there, you know, we're all there, not in a box not too far away. It's a social occasion. It's part of the summer season, isn't it? But it's also not without its own pressures for somebody who is so famous and so photographed. But to answer your original question, the fact that the Prince of Wales was there and Carol Middleton was there, it does suggest, doesn't it, that hopefully there are no huge alarm bells ringing, because Prince William would have no qualms about saying, I'm not going to Ascot if
Yeah.
my wife needs me at home. And he would shoulder any criticism for that.
I guess same with the in-laws as well, like Carol Middleton. It's like the red flags would be there
Yeah.
if they weren't there, but they were there having a nice time.
Yeah, and it was lovely
Yeah.
to see them. And it's so nice to see Zara and Sophie and the wider royal family. They're very tactile, aren't they?
Yeah.
They really are, especially at Ascot. Actually, you see that. You can see more of that family dynamic, don't you? There was a lot of hugging and kissing and,
I love
and
it.
Honestly,
giggling.
never thought we'd be describing the royal family as tactile.
Well, that's what
Things have changed. Yeah.
No, it's always
been like that. But I think it wasn't always as public. I
Yeah.
think perhaps things were slightly more behind the scenes when under the late Queen's reign, because she, things had been done in a certain way for a very long time. But the King is himself a very warm person, and
He's
That's
getting
true.
quite a reputation as a kind of cuddling king,
he
isn't
is,
he?
isn't he? Yeah.
When he cuddled the the rugby team. I love that moment. It's so good.
I know, and that sort of burst the dam, didn't it? Because now everyone wants a hug.
Absolutely. If I saw him, I'd be like,
Bring it in, bring it in, your Madge.
I mean, it's been a great turnout so far. We've had obviously the Tyndalls, Princess Beatrice. We've had Sarah Ferguson. We've also had the Chateaus yesterday and
Yes.
Lady Gabriella Windsor.
Yes.
It's a real big family reunion. It's kind of like, remember when trooping used to be about the extended family?
Yes.
And now really it isn't. I feel like now Ascot is about bringing in the extended family, hanging around, getting those
interesting.
pictures that we rarely see, like, Sarah Chatto. We used to only see her at weddings, and now, we see more
We
of
see
them.
her at Christmas, don't
Yeah,
we? Quite a lot.
Christmas.
But it's lovely to see Lady Gabriella as well, being at the heart of the family action as well. And it is a reminder, as you say, that it is a family at the end of the day. We had this big contrast from the balcony on Saturday for trooping, where you have the working members of the family, they're lined up.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more going on,
Yeah.
obviously, behind the scenes.
So let's go back to Garter Day, because you were there. Again, you just, this week, Emily.
We spent a lot of time on the train.
It's your first day in the office today, is it?
Yeah, it feels
Emily,
like that.
you can tell I've been on holiday as well, because you know what I'm going to ask you is what is the Garter Day, please?
Oh, I
Can
could
you
have
give us a bit
so
of
much fun with you
context?
now, Emma, couldn't I? I really could. This is a really old historic tradition. It dates back to 1348. The Order of the Garter is the most senior order of chivalry. So you have knights and ladies of the Garter, and this is an honour bestowed by the sovereign for people who have, done something outstanding in public life. So you have former prime ministers, Sir Tony Blair, Sir John Major, Dame Eliza Manningham-Buller, who was the head of MI5, Lord Lloyd Webber, the composer, is among them, and then the members of the royal family who are knights and ladies of the Order of the Garter. And they make this quite extraordinary procession down Castle Hill from Windsor Castle to St George's Chapel for a service of Thanksgiving. And they wear these incredible sort of velvet and ermine robes and feathered caps. It's quite...
I was going to say,
It's quite a lot of pomp and pageantry.
sounds almost Arthurian.
It's almost based on that, I think.
Right.
But it's quite a spectacle, and you get hundreds of members of the public entering a ballot to get access. So they sort of line the route. There's a lot of cheering. There's a lot of singing along to the national anthem. And it's just quite a jolly day out, actually.
And then you get the Princess of Wales and Duchess of Edinburgh giggling.
I love
This
it.
was the
Wearing their
beauty of it. And I
outfits.
think that was really reassuring to everyone, because she appeared to be having a great time just, 2
Yeah.
days before her no-show at Ascot.
Yeah.
And, I think she's put in quite a shift
Yeah.
this week.
Well, you said she arrived to big cheers when she got out of the car.
She came out of the car. She arrived with Sophie by car. They wait at the Galilee porch on the side of St George's Chapel, and they did get a big cheer.
Yeah.
And what I loved about it as well is they always stand there and waiting for their husbands to come down in the gear. And I imagine there's a little bit of gentle ribbing about the outfits. There's always a lot of giggling going on between the two
I
of them, and
bet.
it's lovely to see.
To that point, do you think this is something that might be slowly retired when William becomes king? Because is it true that he's not the biggest fan of the?
I would
The garb?
say he's less comfortable with that sort of degree of pomp and pageantry. That's fair, don't you
Yeah, I
think?
think by instinct he is very savvy about what the monarchy is going to look like in the modern world.
Yeah.
And I think he probably views things like this, these very traditional ceremonies, through a lens of what do his generation think about it and what do the next generation think about it. So I think he is more likely to question how much of this stuff is essential. If we're thinking about his coronation one day, potentially that will be a bit shorter, slightly stripped back of a few of the elements. But he is also a member of the royal family. If you believe in the monarchy, this stuff is the heart of the monarchy, and it sets our monarchy apart and Britain apart. If we have these, what could be seen as quite eccentric traditions punctuating the year, that is part of it. And it is a very difficult thing to suddenly say, I feel a bit silly in my hat, maybe we shouldn't do it. And I don't think that is where William is coming from, probably.
No, because he is at the same time as wanting to look ahead and engage with new audiences, more on which we'll discuss in a moment. He is very sort of proud of the institution and of the tradition. I think he recognises the need also to maintain that. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how the generational shift might change this in future.
Yeah,
Definitely
I just
one to
think
watch.
If you've had all these things for hundreds and hundreds of years,
You don't want to be the one
it's a
to
difficult
pull the
thing
plug.
to say, just put it in the bin.
But it's a hard one. It's a hard one to modernise as well, isn't it?
It is, but do you need to?
swap it for a baseball cap.
Do you need to modernise everything? A lot of people who
I
like the
don't think
monarchy, a lot of people don't go to the monarchy for modernisation, do
Yeah.
they? They go to the monarchy
you're
for
right.
history and tradition. And
True.
if you start saying, well, this one's a bit daft, it's a slippery slope to go
Right,
down,
yeah.
isn't it? And then
Yeah.
you raise questions of, well, why do we wear crowns? And it's like, well, because you're the king and queen, and that's part of it. I don't think the public wants a kind of stripped back philanthropic organisation with no royal elements whatsoever.
Yeah, you want the pageantry of it. You
And
want
the
the
colour
pomp
and the joy and
circumstance. Yeah.
trooping and the horses and the carriages. It's all, for me, it's all part of royal life at the moment.
Agreed.
And it's quite an uncomfortable thing to suddenly, start picking bits off.
Yeah, William.
Yeah, William.
He hasn't even said he's doing this.
Let's go to trooping.
That was another hot day with
That
lots
was
of interesting outfits.
but we actually spoke about this, didn't we? We worked together that day, and we spoke that it was actually quite a relief that it wasn't as hot as the day before, but it was still quite a hot day.
Yes.
No fainted guards though, which is good.
Well,
not that we
none
know
that we've
of,
seen
yeah.
on
Is there
camera.
not? That's interesting
No,
because
not-
there's usually always one.
Yes,
isn't
but I
there?
feel it, like we had mentioned, it rained the night before, and I feel like
Okay.
it cleared and cooled down, but
Took
it was
the edge
still
off.
actually incredibly hot. But yeah, let's talk about it, because I have to say I loved Kate's outfit. It was bold. It was exactly what we needed that day. Obviously, there was more to it, to the day than that. But what did you make of, the fashion?
Oh, well, I think she always looks impeccable, doesn't she? But there was that nod to an outfit that the late Princess of Wales, Diana, had worn, I think in 1988. There were lots of parallels being drawn. And, the idea that she's thought through all these things, the colour reflected, the plumage in the Irish Guards, bearskins, it just reminds you of how sort of consummate a diplomatic dresser she is. She's so good at displaying these very subtle signals through her outfits. But we also know she doesn't love the focus always to be on her outfits. But this is a big ceremonial occasion.
Yeah.
They do share outfit details for things like this because there is that symbolism, and that the royals want to show their support, whether they're wearing a regimental brooch or the late Queen's jewellery.
It's difficult not to put, a focus on it when, all the others, well, the senior royals are all in uniform. And really...
Are you saying you're not that into the uniforms?
Well, wow, let's talk about
You
uniform.
always have an opinion about a uniform.
Yeah, no, but actually, can we just go and talk about the uniform? Because that picture that Prince William shared, that behind-the-scenes photo of him coming out, all dressed in uniform, what did you think of that?
What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think you're
just
trying
feel
to
like
tell us
you're-
something here.
I mean, I just thought it was incredible that he was showing that type of photo. I thought, he looked really good. I think all royal fans agree.
Bit of a thirst
Where are
trap.
you
Is that
going
what you're
with this?
getting at?
Could it be? I don't know.
Do you need a glass of water?
No, I'm fine. But Hannah, what did you make of it?
I love the behind-the-scenes stuff this year. I also love the Buckingham Palace behind-the-scenes
Yes.
stuff of the king feeding the horse a carrot. I
That
thought
was
that was
so.
such a
It reminded me
lovely
a lot of
moment.
his mum,
Great.
actually. It reminded me a lot of the late Queen.
And it was quite unusual, the family photo, to have all of the Wales family posing, looking at the
Yes.
camera. in these coordinated outfits. I think it's a nice touch to trooping, actually, that you see all the formal bits through the day.
Yeah.
You get all the press photos
Yes.
taken from a little bit further away. And then it was a nice end to the day, I thought, to add a bit of a personal touch on their social media.
I thought it was just them saying, it's just a normal family, a big day for us. We pose, and it was clearly a phone photo, taking up the steps of their, London home, and it's just them going out.
Do you think, though, that the balcony looked too quiet this year?
I disagree.
No?
I disagree. I think
There was there is a royal account that I follow on Instagram. Forgot the name, but they did a poll, and people want to see extended family members in that balcony, and I agree.
You heard it here
I
first,
remember
Charles.
the days when there were all the family were there, and you could spot other people, and it was just like it was great.
But then people like us have to do, who's this?
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Left
bet
to
you-
right, 11,000 people.
I bet you don't miss that, do you?
No. I kind of also think that it is it's important for the messaging as well, though, isn't it? Because, obviously the king said to have wanted this slimmed down monarchy for many years before his reign began. And it kind of happened a bit more organically than anyone had foreseen. But I do think that it's important to avoid the sort of suggestion that there are lots of hangers on.
Yeah.
And that's why Ascot is a great sort of
Yes, I
you know,
agree.
solution
We
to
did
that.
get a little glimpse this year, didn't we, of people being invited to lunch, extended members of the
Yes.
family. There was Freddie Windsor and
Yeah.
That's right.
Sophie Winkleman. We keep calling her Sophie Winkleman.
Yeah.
Yes. Big Suze.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So they are involved in the day. They just don't necessarily have that very formal public bit
Right.
on the balcony, but they watch from the
They
offices,
do,
don't
and
they?
yeah, and they're inside as well. So I think there's a balance to be struck, though. But if you're projecting monarchy, and there's no better place to do it than on the balcony at Buckingham Palace.
And it is the once a year, let's take stock. This is what the family looks like this
Yeah.
year, and you can put them side by side and see this messaging over the years.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
an interesting point in the year each
Yeah.
time.
It's always nice to see the Wales youngsters as well. Do we think that George is on the cusp of finding it all a bit cringe? Do you know what I mean? He's
it's
nearly
a
at the
good-
point where he's just like...
It's a good question. I mean, I have an 11-year-old, and I I'd struggle to get him to behave himself in a carriage, to be honest. Sorry, kid.
I have my family moments in the summer where we do the same festival. Like it's just part of who you are. I don't think you will ever see it as cringe.
It's always nice seeing those moments though where he's like
Yeah.
to Louis like stop waving.
And I bet they look forward to it. It must be fun going on a carriage and everyone waving at you.
And getting loads of cheers.
Everyone cheering.
Well,
Yeah.
you would think that because you're an extrovert. We don't know what's.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Because they don't know any different in a sense,
Yeah.
do they?
True.
That's how they've
That's
been
how they've
raised.
grown up. That's how their father grew up. Princess of Wales is obviously very good at keeping them in line, as you say. Not many
They
siblings
behave,
would
yeah,
would
perfectly.
be like that for the entire day in the heat. They're all blinking in the sun, and they keep up this waving and smiling, don't they? What I thought was quite interesting this year was, I think we were all probably expecting the Louis moment.
Yeah.
It's become a thing, hasn't it? Of every time they're out, you expect Louis to do something funny,
Yeah.
or to be playing up a little bit with some funny pictures, or put his hands over his ears. And this year, I thought they looked quite grown up, the three
Yeah.
of them
Yes.
actually, and they looked like they just knew what they were doing, and they were working it out between them. And even George, when he sort of said to Louis, like, you can stop waving now, it was so Louis was doing his job as
Yes.
as
So
far as
true.
any 7-year-old
Yeah.
has a job. Everyone was loving his waving.
He was
Yeah.
copying his grandfather as well,
Yeah.
which was so adorable.
I think I read a narrative about like putting personalities on the kids and how
Yeah.
that's a little dangerous. You know,
That
like,
was
like
me.
you know,
I got on my high horse.
Yeah,
about
it was
it.
like, oh my god, was that you? Oh, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
I got
But
really
you're so
frustrated about
right.
it, because I just think
Yeah.
if you, and actually it's one of the things I think Prince Harry is right about, that the public do put members of the royal family in a box,
Yeah,
and I think
they
to
label
put
them.
a label on Louis
Yeah.
at such a tiny age,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
he's this naughty cheeky boy, that's very hard to escape.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
And
agree
I'm
with you
glad that
more.
they do seem to be growing up
Yeah.
in their own way
He was
without
just a
that
little
narrative.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely something we've discussed on the magazine quite a lot as well, because as you say, you could write a whole feature based on one photograph, but
Yeah.
it's a split-second snapshot of
I really
someone's
don't like the word
character.
naughty.
Yeah.
Since I became a mum, I realised like I just don't like the word. Cheeky, I get it, but naughty.
But you
It's
are
all-
sometimes.
It's all done in fun, isn't
Yeah.
it? And it's done fondly, and nobody is ever looking at Louis thinking you're a naughty boy. It's like
Yeah.
in the same way William and Harry, when they were little, were cheeky and played up in front of the cameras. So I don't think anybody ever says it as a criticism. It's done really affectionately, but I still think we do need to be careful
I'm with
of
you.
putting a label on it.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, as we speak, the Prince of Wales is on a day out in Norwich with Kate Blanchett. There are words that I wasn't expecting to say this week. What is happening there, Hannah?
It's the Earthshot Prize, isn't it? She's a big supporter of the Earthshot Prize. They're going to visit a factory that is essentially coming up with a better way to do dyeing for clothes in a much more environmentally friendly way. I don't think we expected Kate Blanchett to be going to a factory in Norwich, but why not?
I'm here for it.
They're in a lab as we speak.
We've just seen
the
some lovely
photos.
photographs of them both in their white lab coats. Kate's even got the sort of kind of like lab glass. They look like lab glasses on. Obviously, fully engaged.
I think it's a great idea to show these big name supporters what is actually happening.
Absolutely.
Because so often they go to the awards and they obviously support Earthshot as a concept. We all want to save the planet. But actually seeing the nitty gritty of what the nominees and the winners are doing, I bet they genuinely find it interesting. And I bet they don't get offers like that very often either, to just please pop along to a factory.
And the platform it gives for this company, Colorifics, is extraordinary, isn't it? You know, her presence, and Williams, of course, is going to give them sort of global headlines. And that's all part of what he's doing, isn't it? By drafting in these A-listers to support him. He knows that it's about their reach as well, isn't it? As well as their, personal support.
And it also shifts the narrative slightly into what he's trying to say about with the Earthshot Prize, which is that it's about finding solutions and not just kind of moaning on about how we're all going to die soon and the planet's burning. It's about finding solutions, and that's the thing that's very difficult to get press for, actually, is the nitty-gritty of this, what each person is doing. So having an example like this to tell the world, actually, you just don't have to accept that food dye is polluting our planet. Here's a better way of doing it. Is quite inspiring to other people, isn't it? Because then you can think, what else could we do differently? What else could some clever person invent?
It's what he calls his stubborn optimism, isn't it? So he's determined to show people that there are, as you say, solutions, but there are positive things we can do,
and
rather
Kate
than feel powerless.
Kate is the latest in quite a string of A-listers that are
She
flocking
is.
to royal causes in the last week or two.
I mean-
With Meryl Streep, Kate Winslet,
I
out
know.
with the King's Foundation last week.
It's been
What's happening?
extraordinary. I know. Well, I can tell you, I was stood on the side of a peat bog in Dartmoor with the Prince of Wales, and I realised that the King was
You got
hanging
a
out
job.
with Meryl Streep and Kate Winslet, and I questioned my footwear. Got very wet.
Didn't they have a fangirl over A-list celebrities? Or do you think they're just used to it by
I
now?
think they are used to it. I don't. I'm sure they are.
Meryl though.
Meryl. Certainly, I think the people covering the job were quite excited by this.
Yeah.
What do you think, though, Hannah, about this drafting in A-listers? Is it It's not. It could be seen to be gimmicky, I suppose, in some cases. But people like Kate, she's a member of the Earthshot Prize Council, isn't she now, I think? They are sort of longer-term commitments. They're not just doing some spon-con, are they?
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's not who you do it with, it's how you do it.
Yeah.
And it's building a long-term relationship. And as you say, if it was some random celebrity pitching up, it would lead to questions of, well, why is that just a publicity stunt? But actually with Earthshot, they support it over years. They clearly are genuinely invested in it. And similarly with whichever cause, whether it's the Queen's Reading Room or King's Foundation work or Earthshot, they're trying to build these long-term relationships that have some kind of meaning.
Yeah.
I guess David Beckham is the obvious one to talk about with this, because when he first started pitching up at Highgrove to talk about bees, it did feel like a bit of a wild card, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then when you look into it and you talk to people, everybody says he's genuinely interested in it and he does want to do his bit. And I think the people the celebrities that say yes to these things don't just do it, I don't think, to have their picture next to a member of the royal family. I think if you're going to spend your day...
David Beckham.
I think if you're signing up to spend your day out in Norwich at a factory, probably you are interested in what you're going to see.
Very true.
I'm very
true.
excited to find out more about that day out after this.
Now, before we move over to America, because there's lots to talk about, I just wanted to mention there has been an exciting royal engagement, which was Lady Marina Windsor. She announced her engagement to her boyfriend. Now, I love a royal wedding.
You do?
I love a royal wedding. Do you think we will get the royal wedding we deserve, or do we think Lady Marina Windsor is quite private, has remained quite private, and it won't quite be what I'm expecting.
Well, she's not a working member of the royal family. She is obviously, a loved part of the king's family, but I wouldn't expect, given that she doesn't have a hugely public profile, I wouldn't expect that. But, there may well be some members of the family attending.
Love.
Do you know how much royal weddings cost?
Well, yes.
This is quite an important point,
Which
isn't
one?
it? The security.
Yes.
It's a huge production.
You're right.
It's not kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who can we give a royal wedding to, because we
Yeah.
haven't had one for a few years.
No.
There's a massive cost to it and a massive security effort and police presence. And yeah, I think this will be a lovely private family wedding that hopefully we'll get to see some lovely photos
Yes.
from.
It's
I'm
sort
sure
of be
we will.
going back on everything that Charles has been trying to do with his hometown. There was something like Marina's wedding. Yeah.
Okay, are we ready?
Are we ready to cross the pond?
Yes.
I'm
Because
ready.
I want to
Yeah.
talk about a lot of things, but in particular, and we haven't
I feel like we
mentioned.
should be girding our loins or something.
Yeah, no, we haven't mentioned this because it, didn't coincide with the recordings. But Meghan and Harry's twerking video has now reached 50 million views.
Flipping it.
You do
Now-
enjoy a stat.
I enjoy a stat.
How many of them were you?
49 million.
Probably. Now, I might have watched it like 10 times, maybe. But what do we make of that video? And has it worked? Because I'm assuming she posted it to show that they are just a normal couple. Well, it was posted obviously in Princess Elizabeth's birthday. And it was to show, that she was late. She had tried everything. So she took to dancing at the hospital. But obviously, I guess it was to show a side of them that they're just a normal couple at the end of the day. And back then, there was this viral video trend going on about dancing to this song. They took part in it. Are they just like any other couple?
If the question is, does it work? I suppose you need to go back to what were they trying to achieve with it. And I think for Meghan, what she wanted to achieve is, as she said on a podcast a couple of days ago, authenticity, showing that she has this private life full of joy and normal moments. So I think, I would imagine that they're pleased with how it's gone down. They've had a lot of people saying, oh gosh, they're so normal, how fun. It's a very different insight into their lives. I don't think that the general public ever really doubted that they have fun in private. So I think that's a slightly odd objective to have, to prove that you have fun with your husband, with your children. I think everybody assumes that they do have that side to their lives already. Whether it worked in royal terms is a completely different question, but I don't think they're that interested in that now.
No, they've moved on.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that this was sort of one of the reasons they pivoted their PR company? They've changed hands, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's that clear cut actually, because the video's obviously been released in the last few weeks under the watch of the new PR team. So no, it's not quite correct to say that. In fact, I wrote the story saying that they'd switched up members of their team. They got rid of a couple of people who they'd had there for about a year. Carl Boulier, Charlie Gibson, they were both involved in quite high-profile trips to Colombia, Nigeria, the Invictus Games, and they have decided to go with a separate team, Method Communications, but they have other senior people on their own staff as well. And they have been sort of in place, certainly a few of them, for the last couple of months. So, they were there when Harry gave his interview to the BBC. So it's not a sort of knee-jerk reaction to those last few things that have caused some waves of controversy, if you like. And yeah, they've had a lot of changes over the years.
Do you think the advisors play much role in Meghan's social media now? I get the impression this is her vision and this is what she wants to put
but there
out
was
in
a
the world.
social media manager there until fairly recently, who's now departed. But yeah, I think this is, as you say, very much she is sharing what she wants to put out.
But is it part of a publicity plan, strategy?
Well, not according to Meghan. And Han, you listened in very carefully to the Emma Greed podcast, didn't you? But Meghan said that she's not doing this to promote her brand, that her personal one is about doing things on her own terms.
Sharing moments of joy.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess what I'm thinking is, like, I feel like if she if Meghan brought in these moments, these like real candid, authentic moments a long time ago, I don't know. I feel personally like I would have warmed to her a lot quicker.
Well, I guess her argument is, and the inference in what she says about doing things on her own terms, is that she wasn't able to. I mean, that's what she's suggesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think probably she's right on that. I don't think the palace would have signed off on a twerking video.
I don't necessarily
They could have
mean-
pushed the boundaries.
I mean, they have
more
upped
than
their
they
game
did.
on socials, but not.
No,
yeah.
not
I don't
dancing.
necessarily mean when she was at the palace, though. I feel like, they've been in Montecito quite a long
Yes.
time now. And I guess this is her social media presence is still super new. So I think maybe post Freedom Flight.
Yes. Oh God, I've forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I thought was potentially more interesting than a twerking video, not from like views and outrage terms, but from sort of our perspective, was the Father's Day video that they
Yes.
did. That montage of moments with Harry with the babies.
Oh, yeah.
That was
which
actually very touching.
lovely,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And after I watched that, I thought that is the kind of thing they could have done in the royal family now, bearing in mind things move on every single year. Their social media is always evolving. And I thought it was so interesting that she's now comfortable sharing the children
Yes.
in quite a royal way. And when she was talking on the podcast about how people buy the children's clothes and that she can now see it as happening from a place of love, that people support the family so they want to buy the clothes that her children wear, I thought that is a much healthier place to be
Yes.
in terms of your relationship between the public and your family than they were able to find when they were in the royal family.
Yeah.
Because back then the narrative was all like serving my children on a platter to the world, and
Yeah.
they clearly really didn't want to do that, and they wanted to keep the privacy. And they relaxed on that a great deal, I think. And the Father's Day video was quite a good compromise.
I guess it's what they've sort of always said, isn't it? That wanting that privacy and that, I guess, exposure on their own terms rather
Yeah.
than on somebody else's. And
Yeah.
that's where they're at with it.
Yeah.
And I love the Disney video too. That was great. That was
Very
to get
cute.
insight.
Very cute.
We never know what royals do on their holidays, so it's nice to see that they've
That's
got.
such a good point, actually.
It's good that they can share, where they've been once they've been, and it's really nice. I love that.
Let's cut to the chase, Han. We
Yeah.
haven't discussed jam for a few months since you were last on
I've
the
missed
show.
it.
Where are we? Where are we at with
There's
as
going to be
ever?
more
the jam
jam,
front.
but the jam isn't called jam.
It's
The
preserved.
jam is fruit spread or
Oh,
fruit
gosh.
preserve. I think they landed on fruit spread in the end.
Yeah.
There's another drop of as ever stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Meghan talked
A
about it on
summer
the
drop.
podcast the other day. Is it a summer launch?
Yeah.
And I think she said there'll be more of the same, and then there'll be a few extra products. And she obviously has been thinking about this very carefully because she's been. She says she was surprised of how quickly everything sold out the first time round, and has been very conscious about how to restock it. She doesn't want to annoy people by having a sellout immediately again, which I think is quite an interesting
Yeah.
way of thinking about it. So yeah, we'll see what these extra products are.
She's also been teasing season 2 for her Netflix show, which she says will come in later this year. She was also due to appear, she was going to be honoured in a gala that got postponed. A lot is happening for her. What can we expect from Harry?
It's a great question. Well, Invictus is coming, isn't it? Invictus is obviously his baby. We've got Birmingham in 2027. Other than that,
Pretty
what's
quiet.
the strategy? It
Yeah.
is quite quiet. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if he's taking a moment to take stock. We know he'd love to just take a bit of a backseat and play with the kids, probably.
Yeah.
He did a video for military in
Yes.
Germany the other day, so he does pop up every now and again. But yeah, it seems like this is Meghan's time to shine
Yeah.
for a
She's
while,
really
doesn't
come
it?
into her own, I think. I think you can see her confidence has grown a lot as well.
It's back. Well, she
Yeah.
does say, interestingly, in the podcast this week, that failure is not an option, effectively, doesn't
Yeah.
she?
Yeah,
Does
she doesn't have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
She doesn't think about failure. It's such an interesting insight into
Yeah.
where she comes from.
My faith is greater than my fear. She's not afraid.
Oh, is that Meghan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You thought it was me?
Yeah. Wow.
I thought you had a funny turn. Well, Han, we love having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today after a very busy day at the races yesterday.
Thanks for letting me
We'd
hang out.
love to have you back again. Please do come back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's everything from us today. Thank you so much to Hannah and to you two for joining us. We'll be back next week for our live.
Remember to book tickets. In the meantime, get more from Hello with our entertainment podcast, The Daily Lowdown, available on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Bye.
Bye.